Do you know that out of control feeling that accompanies binge eating? So do I. I'm not an expert or anything, but I'm going to share with you some of the things that have helped me. Hi, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Andrea, and I'm on a journey towards weight loss using a healthy lifestyle and a sustainable approach. Who's with me? I want to talk about something today that I know about all too well: binge eating. Binge eating involves consuming large quantities of food very quickly to the point where it becomes uncomfortable. It is accompanied by a feeling of being out of control. I have struggled with binge eating for many years, and it is a big reason of why I put on so much weight after my bikini competition. As I said, I'm not an expert, so if you feel like you need professional help, I highly recommend talking to someone. If you're like me, you tend to hide the fact that you're a binge eater. You hide food around the house, empty wrappers, and you're too embarrassed to tell anyone what's going on. I could eat half a dozen donuts, a box of ice cream treats, and whatever else I could find in my cupboards, fridge, or freezer, all in one sitting. Sometimes I'd even have to sneak to the grocery store to replace all the food that I ate so that my boyfriend wouldn't know what was going on. It is truly an awful feeling, both physically and emotionally. My stomach was in so much pain from all the food, but that was not enough to keep me from eating. I have been slowly gaining control over my binge eating, and it has been reduced to episodes of overeating, but not with the same amount of food or frequency as before. Thank goodness. I feel like this is something that I'm going to struggle with my whole life. I don't want to be controlled by it though, or let it interfere with my happiness. I want to be fit and healthy again. I read a book recently by Dr. Glenn Livingston, who has a PhD in psychology, called Never Binge Again. It has some good information if you feel like you need some extra help, but it does have a slightly different approach on how to overcome your binge eating. A few of the good things the book talks about are that you should create a food plan. Your food plan should have no ambiguity, and you need to commit to stick to it 100%. It doesn't matter what your plan is, as long as if someone read your plan, they would know that you were sticking with it. It can have conditionals, like every Sunday you go out for a drink and appetizer with the girls, or maybe you only eat popcorn while you watch movies. You can hire a coach to help you come up with a meal plan like I did, but you don't have to. Everyone knows what a healthy diet looks like, so use what you know to create a plan that works for you. After all, the best diet is one that you can stick to. And you don't have to come up with a food plan all at once. You can just come up with 1 or 2 food rules that are non-negotiable and that you have to stick with. He also strongly advises against restricting your calorie intakes too much, and so do I. It's better to create food rules that are easy to follow and help you eliminate that binging behavior before you start restricting calories. And this is where things get a little weird in the book, is that Dr. Livingston recommends that you sever the part of your brain that leads to binging behavior and call it something negative. He suggests the pig. Anything that even remotely suggests that you start binging is coming from that part of the brain. It's the pig that's telling you to do it, not you. He emphasizes that you are not the pig. The pig is what's leading you down that destructive path. You do not have cravings, the pig does. I was not entirely comfortable calling that part of my brain the pig, but the author encourages you to use different language if that has triggering emotions for you. I found it did help to separate that part of the brain from myself, and I do find myself now when I'm having a craving, telling myself, that's not you that wants the craving. That's the bad part of your brain. The good part is that it makes me stop and think, and I do think it has been successful on occasion on helping me stop that binging. So if you can buy into this technique, I do believe it does have some merit. Now it's time for some tips that I use that might be helpful in reducing the likelihood of a binging episode. Number 1, I encourage you to take note of those trigger foods. What are those items that you can't have just one of? Don't buy foods that trigger cravings. End of story. This is a hard and fast rule. If you tend to overeat on chips, stop buying them. Don't let yourself think that you can have just 10 as a reward at the end of the night. You can't. You're gonna eat the whole bag. Don't buy a bag to have on hand for company. I promise you, that bag will be gone. If you're anything like me, if it's in the house, you're going to eat it. Number 2 is to not restrict your food intake too much and to eat regularly throughout the day. Cravings will intensify the more your body needs food and nutrients, making binging that much harder to resist. Don't skip meals just because you think you ate too much the day before. You're only going to feel hungry later, and that's when the cravings kick in. Make sure you're including enough protein throughout the day also, as this has been shown to decrease feelings of hunger. If you need tips on how to get enough protein in your diet, leave a comment down below and I'll be sure to include that in a future video. The third tip I have is to break a routine that encourages this negative behavior. I used to drive by my favorite coffee shop on my way to work every day. Just knowing that those donuts were within reach was all I could do to keep from pulling in and purchasing one, or maybe two. I drove past it twice a day, so this was twice a day that I had to resist those cravings. Once I switched my route to work, I was far less likely to stop and grab a snack. This brings me to my next point. Don't allow yourself to be around tempting foods all day. It can be easy to say no to a treat 1 or 2 times a day, but after the 20th time, our willpower has eroded. And once you've succumbed to those cravings that you've been resisting, this can trigger a full-out binge. The kitchen area where I worked was always a place that people were leaving treats for their coworkers. I knew that going to the kitchen area multiple times a day and having to walk past those tray of goodies was just going to be too much for me to handle. So I started bringing my lunch in a cooler and keeping it at my desk, and this reduced the number of times that I had to go in there and resist those temptations. The ability to control overeating goes right out the window with that first bite that you've been resisting. My final tip of the day is to schedule a snack later on in the evenings. I know a lot of people say not to eat after 6 p.m., but if I'm trying to go to bed hungry or have gone too many hours without eating, that's when hunger sets in, and you're far less likely to make a good decision. I schedule a small meal closer to the time that I go to bed so I don't have to go to sleep hungry. And I won't have so many cravings at night, which is the hardest time for a lot of people. If you have any tips of your own that you think might help me or others, make sure to leave them in the comments down below, and maybe I can do a future video to update you on some of them that have worked for me. We're all in this together. You never know if your suggestion might help someone else. Make sure you subscribe to my channel to follow along with my weight loss journey with me. Your support and encouragement is so motivating to me, and I hope I can do the same for you. See you in a new video.